Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom and I'm standing close to downtown Grand Rapids right now. Grand Rapids has been my home for the past 4 years. I came here to start college, and though it was never my intention, I ended up finishing all 4 years of college here. I made amazing friends, met the love of my life, and went on some amazing travels with Grand Rapids as my base. But all good things must come to an end, and I'm excited to announce that Lindsay and I are moving to a new place, a place that we're actually very excited about. What is that place? Chicago. So with us having already moved to Chicago, actually, I wanted to spend this week with some videos commemorating the past 4 years in Grand Rapids. 4 years, that's actually the majority of the time I've had this channel. And so today I'm going to give you a little history lesson about the Grand Rapids Streetcar, and then on Wednesday we're going to do a mobility on demand service that just was introduced this year, and on Saturday, in my feature video for this week, we're going to ride a ghost bus. Hi everyone, and welcome to Grand Rapids, second largest city in Michigan and only city I know with a giant nipple on top of a building. While Grand Rapids may not be the ultimate paradise for a rail fan like I am, that doesn't stop different groups from creating model railroads of the city. This installation was created by the Calvin University Model Railway Club. It depicts a CSX train running through different scenes of downtown Grand Rapids as well as some of the suburbs. One of my friends, Bryce, worked on this project. Over at the Grand Rapids Public Museum, you'll find this installation. Built entirely out of Lego bricks, this model of 1925 Grand Rapids was built by the Grand Rapids Lego Train Club. But wait, what's that? A streetcar? Grand Rapids doesn't have streetcars. Did they make a mistake? Is this what they meant? No, the Lego Club knew what they were doing. There actually used to be streetcars here in Grand Rapids. If you love train travel, hit that subscribe button. We upload at least once a week, and this way you won't miss any of our content. You can also join our community on Patreon. Your support gives you access to cool features such as early video releases. And finally, follow us on our social media, Instagram and TikTok. This Lego model is inspired by the 1920s, an era in which streetcars were the most common mode of public transportation in America. To find out more, I went to the Grand Rapids Public Museum. My real destination was the Streets of Old Grand Rapids exhibit, an exhibit that showcases life around the start of the 20th century, including a replica of the old Union Station, different saloons, and of course, most importantly, modes of transportation. And welcome to Grand Rapids at the turn of the 20th century. Of course, we didn't really travel back in time. This is at the Grand Rapids Public Museum. We're in downtown right now, as you can see, but it was around the 1890s to the 1930s that people began living in neighborhoods outside of downtown. Why was that? Because of the electric trolley. Before electric streetcars, they used horse-drawn trolleys like this one. Let's go look inside. The first era of public transportation for Grand Rapids began in 1865, when the first horse-drawn trolley opened in downtown Grand Rapids. Unfortunately, these horse-drawn trolleys do run into a few problems, these problems having the head of a horse and a body of a horse. That's right, the animal in question would get exhausted, it would need to eat food, and it would poop. All in all, a search was made for a power source that was removed from the vehicle itself. Streetcar companies experimented with steam power and with cable cars before settling on electricity as the new power source for the city's expanding streetcar network. I wanted to find out more about the Grand Rapids Street Railroad, So I took a bus, went to an antique bookstore, and picked up this book. By the early 1930s, this is what the network looked like. The blue and yellow line is one of the several interurban trolleys that ran from Grand Rapids to Muskegon, Holland, and Kalamazoo. Many of the former routes run over streets that are still important transport corridors today. In fact, it was the streetcars that allowed people to move outside downtown Grand Rapids and into the first suburbs, similar to many other American cities. Not only were the streetcars frequent and the fastest mode of transportation anybody could afford, they also only cost 5 cents to ride, and so housing sprung up all around downtown Grand Rapids. Families could now afford a commute, but also recreational trips, like a visit to the Ramona Amusement Park at Reed's Lake. So what happened to them? Why does this street have no more tracks in it? Well, just like many railroad companies in the US, the streetcars around the country had fallen victim to the powerful lobby of the automobile industry. Streetcars disappeared fast, within a decade actually. In the 1920s, the Grand Rapids streetcar system would still see over 23 million riders annually. By 1935, the last streetcar had run. Grand Rapids was the second city in the US to switch completely to buses, preceded only by San Antonio, Texas. Keep in mind, all of this was almost 90 years ago. Granted, Grand Rapids has a reasonable bus system for an American city, but is there a hope for a future streetcar? Interestingly, the city's bus operator, The Rapid, has conducted research into the feasibility of a streetcar. There's no indication if it will ever happen, and if so, when it will be done. But here's the basic proposed route. As you can see, it runs mostly through downtown Grand Rapids. To be fair, while I would welcome anything, this is a very short stretch of track. You could easily walk this in 15 to 20 minutes. Therefore, I propose the following extensions to the Rapids plans. Please keep in mind that these are entirely made up by me. This is a fantasy map and in no way a reliable source on the future of streetcars in Grand Rapids. My first proposal would be a set of lines heading west down Bridge Street and north up Alpine Avenue. These neighborhoods are historically underserved by public transportation, and the Alpine route sees a frequent bus service today. Moreover, this would serve several residential neighborhoods that have great ethnic and economic diversity. They would serve several retail locations as well as Grand Valley State University on their way to downtown. The second route I would propose is a complete replacement of the Silver Line down Division Avenue. The Silver Line was Grand Rapids' first bus rapid transit route, and though it was promised to bring a lot of economic development to the Division Avenue area, to be fair, I don't think it's paid off. Division is still probably my least favorite street to walk or drive down, and I think many Grand Rapids people would share that sentiment. All that's really improved has been the bus shelters, frequencies, and the quality of service still remains the same, as does the price. Light rail, I believe, would bring the transit-oriented development that could significantly improve the lives of people living down the Division corridor. I would also extend it to serve several shops in the Gainesmire area. My third proposal would be a light rail line going up Plainfield Avenue. In some ways, Plainfield is like the Broadway of Grand Rapids. There's no big musical productions, but it is a diagonal street crossing the otherwise straight grid of the city, and as a result, it has a lot of businesses as well as connections to many different residential neighborhoods. The current bus route up Plainfield is one of the busiest of the Rapid network, and I think at the north end it could connect to both a veterans home and the ballpark. And finally, the route that I think would have the most potential is this one. Besides serving major hospital complexes in the Medical Mile, this route would serve popular shopping areas like the Fulton Street Farmers Market, Easttown, Gaslight Village, and the Breton Village Mall, as well as major universities Aquinas and Calvin. It would terminate at the Woodland Mall, or ideally at Gerald R. Ford Airport, because to be honest, it is pretty ridiculous that there's no public transit connection between downtown Grand Rapids and its airport. Besides serving only commuters, this line could be popular for students and people enjoying free time, as it makes it easier to go from one group of businesses to the other. I hope you enjoyed that video about the Grand Rapids Streetcar. We're headed to Chicago now, and I'm so excited that you all get to come with me. Lots and lots of cool Trains Are Awesome content.